maybe like with the companies that you're working with, we like to ask this question. I mean, do you see mistakes at this early stage that you could maybe like warn or kind of like share your experience of mistakes you see companies make early on that you've caught or been able to fix or work out of?
The lack of a financial model is one of the worst. A lot of entrepreneurs especially if they're fast paced and they're very busy, they view that as busy work or not worth their time. But again, that tells me they haven't thought through their market or their sales or how they're going to tackle it, how they're really going to tackle even hiring or their spending or where their assumptions are. And for an investor, investors care very much about, okay, what are the assumptions that you're making that is the basis for your projections? And if you can't say that, if an entrepreneur can't say that succinctly to anybody that asks a question, that'll be a big problem. Mm-hmm. So that's probably one of the biggest mistakes. And then the other is and it's because of Shark Tank, focusing too much on the show mm-hmm. and not on the substance. And that's another reason why I do love our group, because we do have a dialogue. I think it's much more revealing and actually more helpful to all parties to have a bit of a pitch, but also a lot of dialogue with the company, because that's just more, it's more relevant than just being really good at a pitch.
Mm. I've watched Stephanie in action too, because we do interview companies, and there's I'm not gonna say the name, but there's one in particular. I watched this kind of flesh out, and it's not the first time I've watched this flesh out 1,000 times, but because you're here, I want to kind of talk about it. I mean, really cool product, cool different IP and different things kind of going on, had all these different pieces, but when you were interviewing, you're trying to get to the point where there was I don't know. Mm-hmm. I need help.
Yeah.
Haven't thought about that. Mm-hmm. Could you help me with that?
Yeah.
Trying to get to a point to where, in that particular interview, we could get the founder to express some level of authenticity and humility, and figure out, like, can we work with this person? Because that's really what you're trying to figure out. Because you don't want them. I don't want them to have all of the answers, because that tells me they think they know everything. That's dangerous for an entrepreneur. For an entrepreneur to be like, yeah, I'm going to have all the answers. I'm going to know everything. I'm going to know. Yes, I get it, but also no. I want you to be good at what you're good at, and I want someone else to be good at what they're good at. I don't want you to be like, because you're going to half-ass a lot of things, and that's coming from experience of, if you try and do it all, and so in this particular case, we didn't move down the path. We're not going to move down the path with that company, because we got to a point to where it would appear as though that's a ceiling we're going to hit all the way down the road with that entrepreneur. And if they're not teachable, if they're not willing to say, I don't know, but I'll find out for you. If they're not saying, hey, please help me in this area. We have a really cool thing here, but we need help. We don't know this.
And I'll say if it's the same one I'm thinking of, the weird thing about that was if an investor is willing to say, or has knowledge to say, hey, in this particular industry, this typically happens, how will you tackle that? And they won't acknowledge the statement. They'll just, just go off on a different tangent. That's probably a big red flag.
Right. Yeah. I mean, dodging the question, trying to read.
And especially when you're trying to help them, like, look, you're going to run into a problem here. How will you tackle it? And if the response back is more, there isn't a problem.
Right.
That's not good.
Also, too, I would say for any entrepreneur who's going to bring their team with them to do a pitch, let your team pitch. You do what you do. If your team member is if your your CFO's with you, let him talk the financials. If your branding person's with him, let them talk the marketing and the branding strategy. Let your team be involved, because we're not just interviewing the visionary. We're not just interviewing the person with the idea. We want to know what their support structure looks like.
And it adds, it's such a good thing for the company to do that, because it gives an appreciation of the depth that's involved in the company.
Yeah.
And so it's almost never a bad thing. Like it's always like, okay, they've got some rockstar people that are involved with the company. Yeah, it's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's reassuring as well, Stephanie, that you were talking about. I mean, just by nature, at this early of a stage, there's just things that are underdeveloped. It's that humbling experience on entrepreneurship,